peasants had on Vidimonde. Not that there was much the planet could do, even if it knew the pirates were there. Vidimonde was a low-tech agricultural world with more livestock than people. Its only contact with the Empire was a monthly cargo transporter and an occasional patrolling starcruiser, neither of which was expected for some weeks. Hazel glared at the closed door before her and kicked the frame hard. The door hissed open, and she stepped through into the freezing cold of the cargo bay. The door locked itself behind her. A pearly haze misted the air and burned in her lungs. She shuddered quickly and turned up the heating elements in her uniform. The body banks needed the cold at a specific temperature to preserve and maintain their cargo of human tissues for cloning. Hazel looked quickly about her and then accessed her comm implant. "Hannah, this is Hazel, acknowledge."
"I hear you, Hazel," said the ship's AI. "What can I do for you?"
"Edit the signals from the cargo bay's security sensors so it appears I'm not here." Hannah sighed. The artificial intelligence didn't have human emotions, but it liked to pretend.
"Now, Hazel, you know you're not supposed to be in there. You'll get us both into trouble."
"Do it anyway, or I'll tell the captain about your personal video collection of his private moments."
"I wouldn't have shown you those if I'd known you were going to use them to blackmail me. They're a perfectly innocent collection, after all."
"Computer!"
All right, I'm editing the sensors. Happy now?"
"Close as I'll get. And Hannah, if I ever catch you snooping on my private moments, I'll perform a lobotomy on your main systems with a shrapnel grenade. Got it?" Hannah sniffed once and broke off contact. Hazel smiled briefly. All the AIs the captain could have chosen, and he had to buy a peeping Tom. Somehow that was typical of the Shard and its luck. She looked about her at the long rows of body banks, huge and blocky, their dull metal sides smeared with frost and caked with ice. Ugly things for an ugly business. The AI was quite right. She had no business in the cargo bay, and no authority either. Not that she gave a damn. Hazel Dark had a long history of not giving a damn, not to mention doing whatever she happened to feel was necessary, and to hell with the consequences, which was at least partly why she'd ended up an outlaw and a pirate. She moved slowly toward the nearest body bank, drawn by a curious mixture of revulsion and fascination. She'd had no illusions about what she was getting into when she'd signed on board the Shard as a clone-legger, but somehow it was different up close. The body banks were a source of life and longevity, but the spotless cargo bay still seemed to reek of death. Most of the lights were out, conserving energy. Never knew when you might need the extra power to make a run for it. Clone-leggers were not popular, either with the authorities or those who had a need for their services. Hazel walked slowly down the central aisle between the body banks. Visions of hearts and lungs and kidneys burned brightly in her mind's eye, pulsing with fresh crimson blood. She was sure they didn't actually look like that, preserved in the icy cold of the machines, but that was how she thought of them. Her fellow clone-leggers just referred to them as the merchandise, as casual as any butcher in a slaughterhouse. She stopped and looked around her, surrounded by hundreds upon hundreds of human organs and tissues, enough to fill a dozen battlegrounds, and every one of them worthless, contaminated beyond saving by a smuggled virus. That was what you got for making enemies in the clone-legging business. Not too long before, the captain had come out ahead in a business deal with the Boneyard boys, through his usual mixture of high risk-taking and low cunning. Contracts the Shard had lusted after for years had fallen into their hands as though by magic. Hazel smiled grimly. They should have known better. Clone-legging was a cutthroat business, sometimes literally. Clone-legging was illegal, a crime punishable by death, but that did nothing to slow down the flood of people ready and willing to make a living out of death. Officially, the use of cloned human tissues for transplanting was only allowed to the highest of the high.